Take two, because I don't want to belch on camera. All right, so what's happening this week? Well, last week was the second week of dynamic audio, and that went really well, and I'm excited to close that out. But I've got to juggle this week the responsibilities of my daughter being at home, my partner's working, so making sure that I'm helping carry the load for that, and that's not falling entirely on my partner's shoulders, so I'll have less time this week, and probably next week as well. So I'm going to shift the last week of dynamic audio either to next week or the week after. In the meantime, I'm going to be looking at cost-effective AWS development. So that's looking at where are the costs in putting together an Alexa experience, what are the options that you have from an infrastructure perspective, what are the sorts of costs that you can likely expect to pay. So on a per session basis, what sort of stuff goes into that, on a per user basis even, looking at what makes sense around that, ways of projecting the costs for hosting an Alexa skill. Because ultimately, and this will go into the monetization side of things, it's kind of two sides of a coin. The cost of hosting a skill needs to be low enough that when you take into account infrastructure cost, user acquisition, development time, assets that go into development, all of those things, it still needs to be worthwhile. It still needs to be lucrative, or at least profitable as a market. So I'm interested to see what comes out of that. I'll be following up communication with a couple of people on the local Alexa dev team, seeing if we can get some information out of that as well, just around sort of any spreadsheeting or projections that they might have. But that's going to be my week, looking at costing, because ultimately at the end of the day, as fun as all of this needs to be, it's wonderful to be able to create these kind of experiences, but it has to be in service of a sustainable, there needs to be a sustainable market behind that. So that's me for this week. I hope that you're safe, and I hope that you're well, and I hope that your weekend has treated you well. I hope that your headspace is doing okay. It's a lot out there at the moment. I saw today that a lot of folks in sci-fi fantasy, authors, fans across the community are starting to unfollow people for their own headspace, and I think that's a broad thing that's happening. Just people are starting to pull back simply because of the stress of conflict. I think is primarily at the center of it, and I get that. It's a lot. I mean, I had a conversation that effectively turned into an argument with a voiceover colleague on Facebook, and I've now unfollowed that person because ultimately, I guess it comes down to your own judgment, but I felt like they weren't acting in good faith with the conversation that they were having, and so I made the choice to not unfriend them and sever that connection, but definitely unfollow them, so that I don't have their posts in my feed. And I think that's, I don't want to turn this into a tangent, but I think it's a real decision that everyone's having to make at the moment. It's one that we've been facing since 2016, and the parameters for this keep on shifting. But what is protecting your own mental health, and what is closing the doors on an echo chamber to the point where you will suffer, you will hear no conflicting opinions? And it's something that I always struggle with. There's an amazing video talking about the Socratic method of engagement in conversation, not with a point of view of trying to win, but just trying to learn more. And that's now something I really strive for, because I don't want to win. I don't want to win arguments. Like I was 20 something and on the internet. Like, I've had my fill of that, of just having debates with folks. What I want to do nowadays, good Lord, we're at 7 minutes. I'll try and wrap this up. But yeah, I want to understand more. I want to know more. I think there are certainly things that there are certainly viewpoints that you can't brook. I think there are hateful things that people believe that need to be called out, that need to be addressed, that you need to bring to people's attention. Hey, what you said there is not okay, because otherwise there's an axis along which you, and I feel this acutely as like a cishet white male, like an incredibly privileged person. You can't throw marginalized people under the bus in pursuit of your own embodiment of tolerance. Like, that's not fair. Like, there are people out there who are marginalized for any one of a number of reasons, be it faith, be it gender expression, be it sexuality, who deserve to have people outside of their community, who deserve to have people outside of them standing up for their rights just to be acknowledged as a human being. So I think there are some things that you just absolutely, you can't brook, that need to be called out compassionately as, hey, that's not okay. But there's also that other concern about, at what point are you simply just shutting down anything that is not the thing that you believe? And I don't want to get to that point, but 2020 for all of us is the thing. It really is. I'll close with this point. And I'll let you get back to your day. Because again, circling back around, what am I doing this week? I'm looking at cost models for Alexa development. So that's me. But someone said that everything at the moment feels just a lot more sharp. And I think that's so true, that everything gets under our skin. And it's the progression. It feels like the climactic point of an arc that's been going for 4 years or so, probably longer. But I kind of put this timeline on, when we started entering this fake news narrative, and we had people framing this conversation as quite deliberately combative between two viewpoints. So, be safe, be well. I will talk to you tomorrow. I will talk to you about all sorts of exciting things, probably about spreadsheets, and I look forward to talking to you then. Be safe and be well.